Hey everyone, welcome back. Today we're diving into another truly horrible case together. Let's get started. On April 13, 2024, in the desolate backroads of Oklahoma, a chilling discovery ended nearly 2 weeks of agonizing uncertainty. Law enforcement officers pried open a commercial freezer, only to find the bodies of Veronica Butler and Jilian Kelley, missing since March 30th. The search had begun with frantic calls from family. The first clue? Veronica's abandoned blue Kia, eerily parked on a desolate shoulder near the Kansas border. Inside, chaos reigned. Shattered glasses, a hammer with a splintered handle, and blood. On the asphalt, on the seats, hinting at violence too brutal to imagine. The doors were closed, but the interior was in disarray. Nearby, officers located her glasses and a hammer with a damaged handle. There were traces of blood, both on the asphalt and inside the vehicle. The ensuing operation covered a radius of several miles around the car's location. Drones, K-9 units, heavy machinery, and volunteers were all involved. A signal was eventually traced to a private farm in Texas County. Investigators learned that on March 29th, a man named Tad Cullum had rented the parcel, claiming he planned to cut down a tree and bury construction debris. This allowed him to operate machinery and carry out work on the land without drawing attention. When authorities arrived at the farm, they immediately noticed an area of disturbed soil where the discovery was eventually made. Bloodstains were found on clothing items belonging to the victims. Nearby, there was a knife, a dark hoodie, jeans, and shoes, all stained with blood. That same day, investigators ruled out the possibility of accidental disappearance and handed the case over to the state's Bureau of Investigation. The pressing question now was this: who and why staged such a planned execution in the middle of a desolate rural setting? On the morning in question, Veronica Butler departed from Hugoton, Kansas, intending to pick up her sons for a scheduled weekend visitation, Saturday being the court-mandated day for their meeting. She was accompanied by Jilian Kelley. Their route was prearranged from Hugoton to the nearby town of Eva, Oklahoma, where their children were to be handed over at a gas station by their paternal grandmother. The children's father was in a rehabilitation facility and unable to participate. The distance between the 2 points was approximately 30 miles, most of it along a rural highway. According to mobile data, both women departed Hugoton at 9 a.m. Their phones remained active until 9:42 a.m., when both simultaneously went offline. Family members tried calling them repeatedly but received no response. Given the strict timing of the visitation, this caused immediate alarm. Veronica's relatives sprang into action right away. By midday, they had already located the first clue, the abandoned vehicle. When officers arrived at the scene, they found several pieces of evidence. Inside the vehicle, they discovered Jillian's bag containing an empty holster and a phone charger, but the weapon itself was missing. Phones, IDs, wallets, all gone. Everything pointed to the car being abandoned in a hurry. The area was quickly cordoned off. Authorities searched nearby farms, ravines, and abandoned buildings. The complete lack of contact with either woman reinforced the theory of a possible abduction. But without witnesses or recovered remains, the case hit a standstill. News of the disappearance made its way into the media and quickly spread. Local residents, church groups, and advocacy organizations joined the effort. Despite the growing awareness, no credible leads came in during the early days, raising even more suspicions that the attack had been premeditated rather than random. The only thing that offered some clarity about that morning was the analysis of call logs and phone locations. Around 9 a.m., Tiffany Adams, the paternal grandmother, called. She later claimed that Veronica had canceled their scheduled meeting. But cell tower data and the vehicle's location showed otherwise. The women were already just a few miles from the gas station. That chilling morning marked the beginning of a series of tragic events. All initial clues pointed to an ambush. Veronica Claire Butler was born on February 28, 1997, in Hugoton, Kansas. Her parents, Clinton and Amanda, eventually separated and went on to start new families. Despite the divorce, Veronica maintained a strong connection with her relatives and was known in school as a focused and determined student. She graduated with strong recommendations and served as the commencement speaker at her high school. Afterward, she enrolled in a college program in Liberal, Kansas to train as a surgical technician. Veronica earned a reputation as kind-hearted and even-keeled. She worked as a nursing assistant, providing care for seniors and tending to their needs with compassion. She had a deep love for cooking and had made significant progress in that area. Still, her top priority was always her sons. Her relationship with their father, Wrangler Rickman, had been strained for some time. Though the couple never officially married, they had 2 sons during their time together. Tensions had begun long before their eventual split in December 2018. After the breakup, they agreed to co-parent. In February 2019, Wrangler filed for shared custody. The court ultimately ruled that Veronica would retain primary responsibility while granting the father limited visitation rights. The arrangement resulted in the boys alternating weeks between parents. This continued for several months until Veronica made the decision to move out of state. Without a court order or formal agreement, she took the boys to Colorado. Over the next 2 years, she relocated 4 times across 3 different states. According to Wrangler, these constant moves disrupted the boys' routine and raised serious concerns. In 2020, Wrangler filed for full custody. During the proceedings, he submitted evidence that the boys had returned from visits showing signs of neglect, appearing hungry with bruises, and what he claimed were animal bite marks. He also alleged that Veronica often left them in the care of relatives or acquaintances without informing him. One of the more serious points raised during the custody proceedings was an allegation that Veronica's brother had previously shown aggressive behavior toward her sons. Although the court had already issued a no-contact order against the uncle, it later emerged that he was still spending time around them. This violation caught the judge's attention. Veronica, on her part, accused Wrangler of mistreatment, filing 5 separate complaints about alleged physical aggression. However, investigations found the claims to be unfounded. In one incident, she claimed the father had choked their son and even submitted photos showing bruises. But the boy later admitted that his mother had asked him to lie. This revelation played a significant role in how the court viewed her statements. The court heard testimonies, reviewed each parent's behavior, and concluded that Wrangler provided a more stable environment. Veronica was deemed unreliable when it came to caregiving, frequently withholding information and engaging in manipulative tactics. As a result, the court reduced her access to 1 supervised visit per week, held on Saturdays. It was like losing a piece of herself. From that point forward, she began focusing on rebuilding her life academically, professionally, and personally. Still, even brief visits with her sons now depended on external conditions completely beyond her control. Once the court officially assigned primary custody to Wrangler Rickman, he became the legal guardian. However, in practice, day-to-day responsibility fell to his mother, Tiffany Adams. That shift occurred after Wrangler faced worsening personal issues. In early 2024, he was sentenced to court-mandated rehabilitation due to struggles with alcohol and other restricted substances. In addition, he was charged with unlawful possession of a firearm, further complicating his legal standing. These circumstances left him physically and legally unfit to fulfill his parental duties for several months. During Wrangler's absence, Tiffany assumed care of the boys. She lived with a partner named Tad Cullum, and their home became the primary residence for the children. Although Tiffany had no official guardianship status, she quickly took control of the situation, cutting off access not only for Veronica, but for her own son as well. According to witnesses, Tiffany's involvement went far beyond temporary support. She essentially stepped into a full parental role. People familiar with the family described Tiffany as having a strict and domineering personality. She was often seen as aggressive and unpredictable. In conversations with others, she would resort to threats and allegedly warned that she would use a weapon if anyone acted against her wishes. These behaviors were known in the community, and even neighbors expressed concerns about her conduct. Tiffany routinely violated the court-approved visitation arrangement, often creating confrontational situations, rescheduling meetings without notice, refusing to hand over the boys, and imposing last-minute conditions. Every effort Veronica made to follow the legal process was met with resistance. Though she had formal permission for weekly visits, her partner, Tad Cullum, also raised concerns in the local community. Neighbors described him as short-tempered and reclusive, fully aligned with Tiffany's actions. According to police records, he had access to firearms and ammunition. His active role in the lives of Tiffany's grandsons was considered potentially risky, but officially there were no grounds for intervention. By early 2024, Veronica Butler had made significant changes in her personal and social life. After the devastating court ruling, she began building a new path, one without conflict, within the boundaries of the law, and focused on stability. She secured a steady job and continued her education in a college medical program, aiming to become a surgical technician. This career path was a deliberate choice. The healthcare field offered long-term stability, a way to help others, and a demonstration of her readiness to take on responsibility. Alongside work and study, Veronica began attending a local church, where she quickly formed a close connection with Jilian Kelley, an active member of the congregation. Jilian had experience raising children, was deeply involved in supporting women and youth, and held a respected position in the community. During one of the most difficult periods of Veronica's life, Jilian became more than just a mentor. She became a trusted friend. Their bond grew stronger through frequent conversations. Jilian offered personal advice, emotional support, and helped Veronica regain her mental balance. But her involvement went beyond friendship. She assisted with legal matters, reviewed paperwork, and consulted with attorneys to guide Veronica through the lawful process of regaining parental rights. While she didn't interfere directly in the case, her support helped Veronica stay calm and focused. Against this backdrop, in March 2024, Veronica filed a petition with the court to expand her visitation rights. She requested the removal of mandatory supervision during visits and asked to extend their duration. Her request was supported by documentation of positive changes in her life and the absence of new incidents. She included references from her employer and college instructors. The court also took into account another critical element: the mounting problems in the life of the boy's father. At that time, Wrangler Rickman had been ordered into mandatory rehab following an arrest for unlawful possession of a firearm and a relapse into substance dependency. While he was still the legal guardian on paper, he was no longer able to fulfill parental responsibilities in practice. A court hearing was scheduled for April 1st, 2024. The judge was set to review Veronica's petition and decide whether her visitation rights could be adjusted. The outlook was cautiously optimistic. Veronica's attorney pointed to substantial reasons that supported a partial restoration of her parental privileges. With just over 2 weeks left before the hearing, preparation intensified. Additional records were collected, witnesses were identified, and a strong case was being built to highlight Tiffany Adams's repeated violations. Veronica understood this was her opportunity to turn things around and reestablish a meaningful relationship with her sons. She strictly complied with all terms of the previous court ruling and actively engaged with social services. During this period, her contact with Jilian Kelley became even closer. Jilian assisted with travel plans, accompanied Veronica, sat in on consultations, and had even agreed to testify in her defense. By early spring 2024, Veronica had not only regained control over key areas of her life, but had also taken concrete steps toward reclaiming her role as a mother. The upcoming court date was meant to be a pivotal moment, one that could restore her parental standing officially. But those hopes would soon be dashed. The first deviation from protocol came on the day of Veronica's next scheduled visitation. The court-assigned monitor, Cheryl, was unexpectedly absent from her post. Later, investigations revealed that Cheryl had been available and had not intended to take any time off. However, shortly before the visit, she received a direct call from the boy's paternal grandmother. Tiffany personally persuaded Cheryl to temporarily step away from her duties, claiming her assistance would not be needed in the coming weeks. She did not give a specific reason, referring vaguely to a temporary simplification of the schedule. Cheryl accepted this as a notice from a legal guardian and did not press for details. It later became clear that this move had been premeditated. As a result, for March 30th, Veronica's visit was arranged under an alternate plan. She would be accompanied by a different observer. That role was taken on by Jilian Kelley. Technically, the substitution did not violate any formal guidelines, as long as all parties were informed. No official breach was documented, but the situation proved vulnerable. The plan itself was straightforward. Veronica and Jilian would leave Hugoton, meet Tiffany and the boys, take them to a private family gathering, and return them at the agreed time. But no one showed up at the designated gas station. The drive from Hugoton to the town of Ava takes roughly 45 minutes. The last recorded activity on the women's mobile devices lined up with their expected arrival at the location. Despite that, neither Veronica nor Jilian ever reached the gas station. Further investigation confirmed that the last-minute change in supervision had played a crucial role. Tiffany's claims about a sudden cancellation, a phone call, and last-minute changes to the plan were contradicted not only by digital evidence, but also by the clear sequence of events. Investigators ultimately concluded that Cheryl's sudden removal and the mention of a new schedule were not spontaneous decisions. Instead, Tiffany had orchestrated a situation in which no official party would be present to observe what took place at a critical moment. The consequences of that decision would soon shock not only the victims' families, but the nation as a whole. On April 3rd, 2024, the case took a dramatic turn thanks to an unexpected source. During a formal interview in the presence of law enforcement, a 16-year-old girl living with her mother, Cora, and stepfather named Cole came forward with information that dramatically changed the course of the investigation. Until then, neither Cora nor Cole had been on law enforcement's radar, but the teen's testimony altered everything. According to her, since early March, a group of 5 adults had been regularly meeting at their home. Cora, Cole, Tiffany Adams, her partner, Tad Cullum, and a man named Paul Grice. The teen claimed the adults called themselves God's Misfits and often spoke of rejecting courts and legal systems altogether. The meetings were held in secret in the parents' bedroom and frequently involved direct conversations about Veronica Butler. The girl recalled her mother saying, "We won't have to worry about Veronica anymore." Other phrases mentioned during the gatherings included, "It's all planned," "It'll be over by the weekend," "The road she always takes," and references to a remote area where everything can be hidden properly. These discussions made the teen uneasy. Investigators paid close attention to her descriptions of logistical preparation. According to her, the group kept stun devices at home and used strange phones that were charged separately. She didn't know what they were for. She also recalled Tiffany bringing bags with unknown items, bags that never stayed in the house long. On the day Veronica and Jilian disappeared, the teen said she woke up early, but the adults were already gone. They returned around noon looking tense. Cora instructed her daughter to immediately clean the interior of their white pickup truck without offering any explanation. When she began asking questions, Cole mentioned that things didn't go as planned, but there's nothing to worry about now. When asked about Jilian Kelley, her mother said she knew who she was dealing with. And when pressed about whether any weapons had been used, she simply replied, "You didn't see anything, and you don't know anything." Later, Cora allegedly confessed, "The bodies had been hidden deep. No one will ever find them." Those words served as indirect confirmation that a crime had taken place. The teen also testified that the planning had started weeks earlier, possibly as far back as February. At one point, the group even considered staging an accident by dropping a heavy object onto Veronica's car from a moving vehicle. That plan was never carried out because Veronica stayed home that day. Still, the very fact of those discussions confirmed there had been intent to harm her long before she went missing. Particular focus was placed on Tiffany's role in the conspiracy. According to the teen, Tiffany was the one who initiated the meetings, claiming Veronica was hurting the boys and had no right to be a mother. She strongly pushed the others to take action in order to save her grandsons. and all the other adults, Cora, Cole, and Tad, agreed without resistance. The 16-year-old's statements were officially recorded and became the basis for search warrants and surveillance approvals. Her testimony marked a pivotal breakthrough. For the first time, investigators had not only uncovered a deliberate conspiracy, but were able to connect specific individuals to concrete actions and intentions, pointing to a premeditated crime. Although the girl had no part in the group's activities, her account became the key to unraveling the timeline and logic behind the planning. Her revelations became the foundation for the next phase of the investigation. The premeditated plan to forcibly eliminate Veronica Butler and Jilian Kelley was carried out in full. The ambush was set along a rural back road Veronica frequently traveled for her scheduled weekend visits with her sons. Members of the group chose a secluded stretch of road in advance and brought a vehicle belonging to one of the suspects to that location. According to confessions later obtained, the group deliberately blocked the road, forcing Veronica to divert from her usual route onto a less traveled path. Even though this violated the court-approved meeting point, the perpetrators expected that Veronica, upon recognizing a familiar car or assuming the change was related to her sons, would not suspect anything unusual. This maneuver led both women into an area completely under the group's control. The women were clearly unprepared for what awaited them. Evidence from the scene, including signs of a struggle and physical injuries on the suspects, pointed to a sudden confrontation. Tad Cullum, for instance, was found with fresh scratches on his face and neck at the time of arrest. Investigators believe these marks were caused during an attempt by one of the victims to fight back. He had tried to cover them with a hastily grown beard, but experts determined the facial hair was only a few days old. The nature of his injuries supported forensic conclusions that at least one victim resisted with significant force. Investigators concluded that the initial target of the crime was Veronica Butler. However, according to the teenage witness, her mother Cora had made it clear, Jilian isn't just some bystander, she's aligned with the enemy. That perception ultimately led to the decision to target both women. To cover their tracks, the group had prepared a burial site in advance, far from any main roads. With the landowner's approval, Tad Cullum had spent the evening of March 29th on the property, where a freshly dug pit was later discovered. Additional evidence pointed to the use of burner phones. Later, 2 of these phones were detected near the farm, where the bodies were eventually found. This allowed law enforcement to reconstruct the suspects' movements throughout the day of the crime. Investigators believe Cora and Cole's pickup truck was used to transport the victims. Items found in their home included clothing with dark stains believed to be blood, as well as a black knife and other garments that matched witness descriptions. Possible motives behind the crime included personal resentment, a desire to remove Veronica from ongoing custody proceedings, and fear that her side of the story might gain traction in court. Once Jilian was in the vehicle with Veronica, she too became a target, treated with the same level of aggression. Further, digital forensics revealed that the burner phones were used strictly for internal group communication. Landlines were avoided altogether, calls were brief, and most activity occurred between 8 a.m. and 11 a.m., precisely during the time frame the plan was carried out. This indicated a calculated effort to avoid surveillance and prevent traceable communication through standard networks. Search history retrieved from devices linked to Tiffany raised significant red flags. A browser log obtained from her phone included recent queries such as how to make someone leave their home, where to buy a stun gun, untraceable phone, gun without license, and how to get rid of a body. Additional evidence was recovered from the farm where the bodies were found. Forensic analysis confirmed the presence of blood at the burial site, with DNA matching both Veronica and Jilian, along with biological traces linked to Tad Cullum and Paul Grice. An empty firearm magazine registered to Jilian was another crucial clue. Since she was legally licensed to carry a weapon due to her role in the community, investigators believe she may have tried to defend herself during the attack, but either couldn't reach her weapon in time, or it was taken from her in the first moments of the assault. Footprints found in the vehicle didn't belong to either woman. Soil samples from the boot treads matched the ground where the bodies were later discovered. Hair strands matching Jilian's DNA were also found inside the trunk lining. These findings formed the basis of the official criminal indictment. Technical and biological evidence confirmed that the abduction, isolation, and elimination of Veronica and Jilian had been meticulously pre-planned. The group used closed communication systems and made conscious efforts to destroy evidence. On April 13, 2024, law enforcement announced the arrest of 5 individuals suspected of being involved in the disappearance and deaths of Veronica Butler and Jilian Kelley. In custody were Tiffany Adams, 54, her partner, Tad Cullum, 43, Cora Twombly, 44, her common-law husband, Cole Twombly, 50, and Paul Grice, age 31. All were booked into the Texas County Jail and charged with abduction, double homicide, and conspiracy to commit the crime. During a search of Tad Cullum's residence, officers recovered items indicating preparation for violent actions. These included a semi-automatic shotgun, ammunition, a bulletproof vest, and a go bag containing flashlights, gloves, zip ties, and a change of clothes. A large amount of cash was also found, suggesting a possible plan to flee following the execution of the crime. Searches of the other suspects' homes turned up mobile devices, documents, stained clothing, and materials used to conceal the bodies. Investigators determined that at least 2 suspects participated in the burial, while others were responsible for transport, coordination, and communications. These conclusions were backed by physical evidence already in hand. By the time the arrests were made, prosecutors had assembled a substantial body of evidence, including DNA results, location data placing suspects at the scene, and the pivotal testimony of the 16-year-old witness previously detailed. Given the weight of the case, prosecutors moved forward with charges under the highest criminal categories, including premeditated first-degree murder. During initial interrogations, Tiffany Adams denied all involvement, claiming she had no knowledge of the women's whereabouts and hadn't seen them on the day they vanished. However, her statements were contradicted by the prosecution's case. Furthermore, under the pressure of the evidence, one of the suspects, Paul Grice, admitted his role and agreed to cooperate with the investigation. One of the key figures, Cole Twombly, had previously been investigated for illegal possession of firearms. Meanwhile, Cora Twombly had a known history of attending radical religious gatherings and opposing government interference in family matters. This ideology is believed to have played a role in motivating the crime. The charges against all 5 suspects included 2 counts of first-degree murder, aggravated kidnapping, conspiracy to commit a felony, obstruction of justice, and unlawful possession of firearms. Bail was denied. Each of the accused was ordered to remain in custody until trial proceedings begin. By mid-April, investigators had concluded a critical phase, identifying both the perpetrators and organizers behind the crime. Formal charges had been filed, and the collected evidence would serve as the foundation for the upcoming trial. Law enforcement confirmed that the plan had been in development for at least 2 months. Just 10 days before the incident, Veronica and her attorney succeeded in scheduling a new court hearing for April 1st, with a strong chance of reclaiming extended visitation rights. The looming risk of Tiffany losing custody is believed to have triggered the group's premature and extreme actions. The crime carried deep emotional weight, especially as it targeted individuals who had no connection to conflict beyond their personal circumstances. Investigators also uncovered ties between the suspects and a loosely organized radical group calling themselves God's Misfits. This group promoted anti-government views and claimed its members were not bound by U.S. laws. In 2023, one of the suspects, Paul Grice, even filed paperwork in an attempt to renounce his American citizenship. However, after the arrests were made, the alleged leader of the religious organization publicly distanced the group from the suspects, stating they were not official members and did not represent the group's beliefs. Still, investigators viewed the ideological framework as a core motive. The accused saw their actions as a mission, aiming to interfere with what they perceived as systemic injustice, driven by fanaticism and a distorted sense of righteousness. As of now, no verdict has been reached. The trial is still ongoing. The deaths of Veronica Butler and Jilian Kelley deeply shook the close-knit community of Hugoton and surrounding areas. Their loss sparked public outrage and intense sorrow within their families. Reports also surfaced that the judge overseeing the custody case had received threats, allegedly from individuals connected to the group. Authorities have since increased protection for all court officials involved. The trial for the accused has yet to begin, but the prosecution has already stated its intent to pursue the maximum penalty, either life imprisonment without the possibility of parole or capital punishment. What began as a family custody dispute spiraled into a tragedy with religious and extremist undertones, leaving a lasting impact on the people of this small town. Thanks for watching, everyone. Stay tuned. More shocking stories are coming. Don't forget to subscribe.